Last night I saw there was news, the typical news these days. It related to a migrant going on the rampage and stabbing to death a 14-year-old Austrian boy. He also injured 4 other people. And you can see the photo of the assassin. He's sitting down, he's taking a breather after all his hard work, and he's smiling after having killed that 14-year-old Austrian boy. And people were saying, on social media that he's smiling because he knows that he's not going to be killed. He knows that whatever punishment can be meted out by the Austrian government, it's obviously going to be minor compared to the deed that he has orchestrated, the evil deed. I was wondering though why in that photo he has no bloodstains at all. You would expect to see some blood on his hands or on his pants, on his white runner or his white sock or whatever, but there doesn't seem to be any blood. Yeah, very strange. But yeah, you can also see in that photo that there's a Austrian policewoman, and her gun is drawn, but it's pointed down towards the ground because that's standard procedure. That's standard procedure when one of your pets has just gone on the rampage and committed a murder. You don't want your gun pointing at the smirking assassin. And then you have to question, why are women in these roles? It goes against nature, it goes against instinct. And it just so happened that around that time last night I was watching a Canadian film called Back Country, I think it was. And it was based loosely on a couple back in, when was it? 2010 or something, I don't know, maybe earlier, who were camping out in the woods and they were attacked by a black bear. Now, loosely based, because in the true story, the girlfriend is killed by the bear. Even though the boyfriend tries to protect her, he stabs the bear 5 times with a knife. He does survive. The boyfriend does survive. He gets into a canoe and escapes the wilderness. In the movie, it's, role reversal. It's the man who doesn't have the sharp instincts, really, and who's dragged out of the tent, and the woman, she survives, because girl power and grit and all the rest. In the film, actually, it's quite funny. There's a part where the bear has dragged her boyfriend out of the tent, and she slips out of the tent while the bear is busy eating the corpse, and the bear notices her and she walks away, but then she goes back to the camp to get something, and you're thinking it must be something like an axe, something useful that you could use against the bear in future encounters, because this man-eating black bear is going to be after her next. But no, she goes back for the engagement ring that her boyfriend had given her. Yeah, they don't seem to have good instincts, women in general, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this can vouch for that. There was something else I wanted to say. Oh yeah, in that movie, in an earlier scene, I think it's their first night camping out in the wilderness, and I guess it's around sunset, and he goes off, the boyfriend, to collect some wood, and leaves her to hold the fort. But obviously they're in the middle of nowhere, so she doesn't really have much to do. And this stranger appears. He's after catching a number of fish, and she's chatting away to him, a total stranger in the middle of nowhere. Her boyfriend's away, and when the boyfriend comes back, he sees her chatting to this guy, and he says hello, whatever. He drops down the firewood and says hello, and then he goes and gets into the tent, pretending that he's going in there to get something. And then he calls his girlfriend and says, "Can you give me a hand?" And she goes to the tent, and he tells her, "What the hell are you doing? You know, what are you doing being so friendly to this guy? And why did you invite him to eat with us? What the fuck? We don't know this guy from Adam. He could be a total psychopath." And he's like, "Oh, but I just thought it would be nice, you know, he could eat with us." And he said, "Jesus, like, we came out here to spend time together, not to entertain strangers." And she then doesn't know what to do, because her boyfriend, he doesn't want the guy there, but she doesn't want to be impolite and tell the stranger to go away. She doesn't know what to do, so the boyfriend feels sorry for her and then says to the stranger, "Hey, you know what, let's eat together." So they eat together, and there's a lot of tension in the air. The stranger is a very dodgy character, and the boyfriend is picking up on certain cues, and the girlfriend's completely oblivious to all this. She's just sitting there, he, ha ha ha, I'm out in the wilderness with two men, ha ha ha, this is great. But the boyfriend knows that this guy isn't well in the head, and the two boys almost end up in a fist fight, and eventually the stranger heads off. And then the boyfriend's thinking, "Fucking hell, I hope he doesn't come back. I'm going to have my axe at the ready." And then the girlfriend's apologising, "I'm sorry I invited him to stay with us. I'm sorry." So yeah, there's that. Now what else do I want to say? Yeah, in general, and people know this, women are irresponsible in that when they make a mistake, when they make a grievous mistake, when there's blood on their hands, they will very quickly exculpate themselves. They will never be responsible for their actions. I'm trying to be black and white here. Because we're in a very, very dangerous situation here in Europe, in North America, in all these progressive countries. Because for a few generations we've become soft, we men, and we've allowed a matriarchy to rise up. Now it's astroturfed. Feminism, the suffragettes, all that. Yes, there was a sinister hand at play. Yes, it was good for big government to have women out working and equality, equity, have all these henpecked husbands terrified to say the wrong thing in case they end up being kicked out of their homes, they end up being divorced, they end up having to pay through the nose to a woman who will never acknowledge her mistakes. This video is really going to go down well with the MGTOWs. Really going to go down well with the MGTOWs. And that's not my plan here. It's a difficult subject, and a lot of people, almost everyone in what you would call traditional circles, the people who want to go back a century and all that, they will never broach this topic. They will never broach it. And I think that's because at heart they are as liberal as the liberals they decry. They look at Islam and they say, we don't want that. We don't want that. But then you have the other side of the equation. You have our children being slaughtered on the streets of Europe because men are terrified that they're going to upset a woman's feelings by telling her how it is. The woman is the eternal victim in our modern societies. She can do no wrong. She can do no wrong. She can accuse a man of rape, destroy his reputation, and if it's discovered that the man was on a completely different continent at the time of the supposed rape, she won't really face any consequences. She won't go to prison. She'll be forgiven because she's just a girl at the end of the day, and she had traumatic experiences, and she's going through a difficult time in her life. She can't be responsible for her actions. And the man's life is destroyed. We hear about this time and time again. Yeah, the rape accusations, the man in some countries is guilty until proven innocent. Very progressive, isn't it? Very progressive. And this is why the West, and I know some people don't like that term, but this is why the West is declining faster than other parts of the world, because of the Europeans' liberal values. And our liberal values have led us to a situation in which we bring in absolute monsters. Absolute monsters. Subhumans who will murder our children on the streets, sit down to take a breather and smile to the camera with the finger up. You're not going to do shit. You're not going to do shit because of your liberal values. And that policewoman is not going to shoot me because she's a woman. She's a woman. In fact, she'll probably be sending me in love letters when I'm in my cell. We have it with the corporations. The corporations use women as a cudgel against the working man. Human resources is 80 to 90% taken up by women, ruthless, career-driven women, women full of hypergamy, who will destroy lives in the corporation. Destroy lives. The captains of industry love using women to bring down the soul of a nation. The presidents, the prime ministers, they love their PRs, their female PRs, whom they can use to take the heat off them, whom they can use to front tribunals and all the rest of it, to deflect blame, to deflect the corruption. A pretty woman with glasses in a pink suit answering questions with her bewildered eyes, communicating through the mind, telepathy. Don't blame me. I'm just a girl. I'm not responsible for my actions, and I'm certainly not responsible for my boss's actions. Don't shoot the messenger, please. Don't shoot the messenger. Well, guys, I think if we want a civilization, we're going to have to make the romantics take a back seat. If European civilization is to be saved, it's going to entail a few 100 million women in Europe marching back into the environment for which they are made, namely the home. And if the home is homely, men, great men, will have nations to plan, nations to bring back from the grave.